Good morning, people of the grid. Got the car fully juiced. I got it fully heated. We're going on a road trip today, Tammy and I. We're going to Banff, which is about an hour and a half from here. It's full-on winter conditions. It's minus 13 outside. I've got 372 kilometers in the battery. It's not quite at 100%. It's about 90 and change. Plenty to get to the next supercharger, which is in the small town of Canmore, where we might have lunch or a coffee. We'll see. It's going to be a nice drive. We haven't done a road trip, a Tesla road trip, for several months now, since this thing was unleashed on the planet. So this is going to be kind of nice. It's a mini vacation for Tammy and I. Just 2 nights, but it'll be nice to get away. All right, people of the grid, we got our luggage back. I got my girl in the car. We're going on a road trip.
Yay.
And what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna do a top 10 list of EV ownership, because you know what, the same questions keep coming up. We keep answering the same questions. We're gonna answer them again in the video here, and we've got some really good proof points that sort of back up our claims. You know, when we say, yes, you can drive an EV in the winter, how do we know? Well, because we've done it for the last 5 years. But we're going to get to that top 10 list shortly. Right now, I'm just going to pull over. I'm going to show you how easy it is in pretty much any modern EV, because they all have nav systems now. We're in a Tesla Model S, which we've had over 5 years, 5.5 years. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to navigate to get to somewhere. It's actually as easy as it is in any vehicle. Okay, let's do the nav. We're going to Banff. We're going to nav our way there. Here's what it looks like. Here's what we do. We hit navigate. We're going to type in the address. We're just going to go to Banff, and then you look up here. No, Banff, Alberta. Yeah. And it calculates how to get there. And then look at that. So that's where we are. And it's going to show us the path. There's a supercharger on the way. That's in the town of Canmore. And yeah, let's just bring that up again. So we're going to leave here, we're going to drive down. It's about 140 kilometers, hour 34. And does it have us actually stopping at the supercharger? I don't think it does, because I have enough. Yeah, I have enough of a charge. We're going to stop there and then charge up before we get to Banff.
I changed.
You changed what? Your glasses?
Yeah. No.
Oh, you're rocking the cool shades like Miker.
Yeah.
Mrs. Miker.
I love these. Anyway.
I love these. That's how easy it is to punch in a destination. Any electric car, any regular car, it's no different. What Tesla has done, though, is they know where their superchargers are along the way, so they actually nav you there and they tell you how long you have to stop to charge. The newer EVs are coming out with that functionality too. But bottom line, it's simple. You get in your car and you go. The only thing I've done different today, and we'll talk about it later in the top 10, is I preheated the car, which means I preheated the battery to optimize our range and to keep us comfortable in here, because it's cold outside.
And I like staying warm.
Yeah. All right, guys, so what we're going to address today is my EV top 10 list, things that we hear a lot, we get asked a lot. These are the sections we're going to cover in this video. I think it's going to be a pretty exhaustive list, and it should help you if you're in the market to buy a car. Now, who are we and why would you listen to us? Well, we love EVs. We've been driving them since 2012. That's when we got our first electric car, the Nissan Leaf. Today, over 8 years later, about 8.5 years right now, that car has 101,000 kilometers. In 2015, we picked up the Tesla Model S that I'm sitting in right now. This car has just about, on my trip here to Banff, we're going to hit the 240,000 kilometer mark. That's a lot of driving in 5.5 years. And then we also have a Tesla Model X that Tammy drives for getting the kids back and forth and for everything that she's doing. That one has 117,000 kilometers on it. We also have an electric one wheel that I've got about 3,500 kilometers on, and an electric boosted board, which is a long board, and I'm coming up on 1,000 kilometers on that thing. So we've been doing the EV lifestyle for several years now, since about 2012. We have one gas vehicle. We only use it to launch the boat into the lake. In fact, right now it's not even insured. It's parked in storage, waiting for summer. All right, so I broke it down into 10 sections. The first section, we're going to go over common terms. Just things to get familiar. You're going to hear electric vehicle owners talk about them. I'm going to demystify what those terms are for you. The next section, I'll cover the different types of EVs that are out there, just to give you an idea, sort of demystify some of the acronyms that are out there. We'll cover cost as well in the third section, cost of the vehicles themselves, cost of propelling the vehicles, and also cost of maintaining them, the three most important costs in any vehicle ownership. We're also going to talk about, in the fourth section, use cases. What are these things good for? Can they replace a gas vehicle in my life? Can I use them as a family vehicle? Can I use them as a commute vehicle? In section 5, I'll cover range, something that comes up a lot. Section 6, we're going to talk about climate considerations. How do they work in the winter? How do they work in the rain? Can I charge in the rain? That'll be covered in that section. In section 7, we'll get into charging, the different types of charging, where can you charge, how do you find it, all of that type of stuff. In section 8, I'm going to talk about performance. Section 9, some of the benefits that we get running with an EV. And then section 10, we'll just briefly touch on some of the things you want to be aware of as far as warranty if you're looking to buy new or used for that matter. All right. Section number 1, let's talk terms. Some key terms you're going to hear about with an electric car are things like kilowatt hour or watt hour per kilometer. Basically, every electric car has a battery in it that can hold so many kilowatt hours of charge. That's something to know about because the bigger the battery, the more it can hold, the further you can go. One rule of thumb that I want you to keep in mind is for every kilowatt hour, on average, most EVs will give you 5 kilometers of range. That's going to be give or take. If you drive hard, you won't get the full 5. If you drive the speed limit and don't accelerate hard and all that stuff, you'll get over 5. But the average, I would say, is 5 kilometers per kilowatt hour. That's good to know because different cars that you look at will have different battery sizes. The other thing to know about as far as common terms are the types of charging. There's level 1, there's level 2, and there's level 3. Level 1 charging, that's your wall outlet. So you plug into your wall at home, that's level 1. That's the slowest rate of charge you're going to get. You're probably going to get about 5 kilometers in an hour off of level 1. So if you're going to be somewhere all day, like at work, level 1 makes a lot of sense. If you're on a long road trip, level 1, it's not even going to work. Level 2 is faster. Level 2, you're going to hear the word J1772. Most EVs accept a plug, a J1772 plug. In fact, I have one here in the Tesla. It came with one, so I can actually plug the J1772 in this end plugs into the Tesla, and I can charge. The nice thing about J1772s or level 2 chargers is they're faster. So you can get up to potentially 80 kilometers an hour, 70 kilometers an hour off of a level 2. That helps for in the city driving. In a pinch, it'll get you on a long road trip as well, providing you've got the time to wait, because you're going to be charging for 2 or 3 hours on a level 2. Level 3 is the sweet spot. It is the reason we bought a Tesla. It is the reason a lot of the newer EVs that are coming out are coming with their own standards for EV level 3 charging, like CHAdeMO or CCS Combo. That speed of charging will get you in an hour, plenty of charge to make it to the next site, or even within a half hour, or like the Tesla Supercharger network, our stops can be as short as 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get us to where we need to go next. That's level 3 charging. People think that when I plug that thing into the car, that's the charger. That's not the charger. That's called the EVSE, the Electric Vehicle Service Equipment. It's usually the cord, a little box, translates the power into direct current that's going into the car, EVSE. We all refer to it as a charger. Technically, it's not the charger. The charger's on board in the car, but that's okay. The other term to know about is regenerative braking. When EVs slow down, if I take my foot off the accelerator, regen happens, which basically spins the motor in reverse and puts energy back in the battery. It's a good way to get a little more range, and if you drive well, you can stretch out the range that you're given in your batteries. Degradation is what we refer to what happens to batteries in EVs. It happens to every single one. It happens to every type of battery, whether it's your laptop or your cell phone or your electric car, degradation will happen. The thing to know is that the most degradation happens within that first year. That's where the curve falls off a fair bit, and then it just has a nice slow decline over time. That's why we've been able to drive our Leaf for 8+ years, and we still have plenty of range to use it as a daily driver in the city. Degradation happens, but there's things we can do to mitigate degradation. Things like how we charge, how often we do high-speed charges, charging to 100% or not. Not is better, so charging to 90%, not letting it go right to empty. Things you can do to help extend the life of your battery. The reality is, and we'll talk about it a little later, we've been driving our cars for long term, and while we've seen the initial degradation, the degradation over time, it's been very reasonable, and it hasn't affected our lifestyle at all. All right, welcome back to section 2, where we're going to talk about the types of EVs. Interestingly enough, there is more than one type. Who knew? I'm kind of a purist, so basically when I talk EV, I'm talking about electric battery propulsion only. There is a class of vehicle, which is a electric vehicle that also has a gas engine. Sometimes it's a big engine, sometimes it's a small one, but it's got both. It's got an electric engine or electric motor plus a gasoline engine. I'm not a fan of those just because I look at it and say it's more complex. I've got two propulsion models, two propulsion things that need to be tied to the drivetrain, potential for more things to go wrong. Think of the Chevy Volt. It has a gasoline engine that charges up a battery as you drive. If your battery runs low, it just switches to gas and you can drive forever and get more gas. I'm not a fan of those, again, because of the complexity, but they're working for a lot of people out there. Another term you might hear is PHEV. That just stands for plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So it's got a battery in it and you plug it in, and maybe it's got a gasoline engine as well. So what I look for and what I would recommend, it's my personal preference, is a pure EV. If you're going to get in the pool, get in all the way. Don't just dip a toe in. Other terms that you're going to hear or other types you're going to hear are hydrogen vehicles. Hydrogen basically uses a hydrogen fuel source to charge a battery, which then runs an electric motor. There being starts and stops on these. They're not widely available. Toyota was working on one. I think they have one, but it's not in extensive mass production. I'm not a fan of it. You're still running, the old type of fuel system. Hydrogen, fossil fuel, comes from fossil fuels. You're using that to power your engine, your motor. It's not for me, but it could be for you. The problem I see with it is it's not readily available. Electric plugs of slow and fast speed are everywhere nowadays. Yeah, so that's just a quick look at the types of EVs. Do they charge themselves? No, you got to plug them in. Should we put solar panels on top and that would charge us magically from the sun? Sure, if you have a month to charge up your car. If you don't have a month in between drives to charge your car, the solar panel capacity just simply is not enough with today's solar panels. We are too many years away from that even being a viable option. It's not going to happen. Put them on top of a building where you've got a ton of real estate. Now you're talking. On your car, not enough. Section 3, this one is one of my favorites because I track for all of our electric vehicles the cost. And there's 3 key considerations under cost that I think you need to be aware of. Number 1 is the cost of the vehicle itself. Number 2 is the cost to propel that vehicle. And number 3 is the cost of maintaining that vehicle over time. I mean, if you're going to go electric, you want to make sure that the cost is comparable to what you've been driving your entire life, which is a gas vehicle. On the first one, the cost of the car itself, I would say nowadays they are comparable. You can get a very expensive car. You can get a fully loaded Tesla that's super expensive, and it costs more than a gas car, a traditional gas car. But that shifts because the cost to propel it is so much less in the electric vehicle. And now, because we're so many years into the EV sort of transition where electric vehicles are becoming more and more mainstream, what we're seeing is that the cost of the EVs are coming down. So now the average cost of an EV is anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 Canadian, and that compares to the same type of vehicle you can get on the gas side. The trick, though, is when you're driving it. What you'll find is that driving an electric vehicle is a lot cheaper than driving gas. I guess the best way I can give you the information is based on the tracking that we've done. For our Dodge Ram pickup truck, it tows our trailer, it launches our boat in the water in the summers. That truck costs 25 cents per kilometer in gas to drive, 25 cents. If I'm towing something, it doubles. It costs 50 cents because you're towing something. By the way, the same thing happens with electric vehicles. If we tow the boat with the Model X, it cuts our range in half. Same thing happens with a gas truck. Now, interestingly enough, we had a Dodge Grand Caravan. That's what we sold to get into the Tesla Model S. And to drive that was 17 cents per kilometer. That's how much it cost us to drive our van. Had the 2 sliding doors. It sat 7 people. It was pretty cool. 17 cents to drive that. I used to have a motorbike, a gas motorbike. That thing cost 5 cents per kilometer to drive. On average, any of the Teslas, whether it's the most expensive Model S or the most expensive Model X, or something more reasonable like a Nissan Leaf that we have, each of those 3 vehicles, on average, the cost to propel them is it's under 2 cents a kilometer. It's more like 1.5 cents. That is the cost of electricity that we put into that vehicle to propel it. So 1.5 cents per kilometer. And today cars are pretty fuel efficient, so you're probably looking at anywhere from 12 cents to 10 cents per kilometer. That's pretty good. But what you can expect to see is probably a reduction by 4 times. It's going to be 4 to 5 times cheaper to drive electric than it's going to be to drive gas for propulsion. Now, maintenance, I would score an advantage for electric vehicles on the maintenance side as well. Because it is significantly lower. What regen gives us is the ability to use our brakes and brake pads less. So those parts last a lot longer. In this car, the Model S, which I'm just about at 240,000 kilometers, I'm just coming to the point where I think I'm going to need to replace the brakes. And I think it's the front ones. Well, when they check it, it might be all of them. Let's say it's all of them. In the truck, we've replaced brakes around 100K. In our gas vehicles, you're replacing brakes more often. So that's one big thing. There's no motor. There's no gasoline motor to do maintenance on and tune-ups on. The electric motor, it's basically, you don't have to maintain it. There's some seals and joints they have to lubricate, but it's not an expensive maintain. For us, in the cars, what we've seen, it's just the standard items. Tires, windshield wipers, and then the odd little tiny problem or cosmetic thing that might have cost $200 or $300. This car, for example, over a period of 5.5 years, I've driven $240,000. I've spent less than $7,000 on it. And that includes the cost of tires and a windshield replace as well. So your maintenance on an electric car, you can expect it to be much, much lower. That's a big saving. Section 4, use cases. Where can you use these things? This one's going to be pretty short because the reality is you can use them anywhere. It doubles as a family vehicle. This car seats 7. Tammy's Model X seats 7. The Nissan Leaf we have seats 5. You can use it in the city. You can use it for errands. You can use it as a commuter vehicle. They can be used just like any other vehicle. So especially if you're looking at in the city use. If you're buying an EV for in the city use, even if it doesn't have the long distance charging capabilities, you charge up at home, use in the city, it's a no-brainer. Get groceries, plug it in. It's easy, easy, easy. So use cases, the same use cases as any other vehicle. In fact, with the Model X that Tammy has, we use it to tow the boat because it's cheaper to tow it with electric propulsion than it is with gas. So all right, section 5 is range. This is a big one. This one comes up because this is what scares people the most. They're like, what is the range of the car? And I'll tell them, well, this Tesla, best case scenario in the summer, I can do 400 kilometers. I'm like, 400 kilometers? That's all? My gas car can do 500. Yep, but I can charge it and get more range. Just like in a gas car, you put more fuel in and you get more range. I mean, we've driven 240,000 kilometers. This Tesla, we've driven from Calgary to Anaheim with our 4 kids in tow and with luggage for everybody with a Thule box on top. We've driven our Model X to Disneyland twice, from Calgary to Disneyland and back. That's like 5,400 kilometers. That is a long distance trip. We did it fine. The beauty was it cost us nothing because we use the supercharger network. We get free supercharging because we bought early into the program. It's great for long distance travels. So you can go very, very far. At the completely other end of the spectrum is the Nissan Leaf. Now, Ethan's driving our Nissan Leaf. It's his car now. It's 8 years old. We've had it since it's been first came into our lives when it was new. The range has dropped a little bit. So in the winter, he gets about 60 kilometers. In the summer, he can pull out about 120. Again, you look at that and you're like, oh, that's not a lot of range. But he goes somewhere, he plugs in, charges up, he can go further. If he goes to school, university, he plugs in, charges up. By the end of the day, it's fully charged. If he goes to work, he finds a standard outlet, plugs in, comes back after an 8-hour shift or a 5-hour shift, he's got more than he left home with. And he comes back home with more range than he left home with. So don't let that fool you. Just because the car doesn't have the range of a gas vehicle, it doesn't matter. I mean, even if you actually profiled your gas vehicle driving, it's a little different because we fill it, most of us, and then we drive it right to empty. And then we fill it, we drive. With electric vehicles, it's not like that so much. You charge it up, and then you use some, you charge, you use some more, you charge. It's just, the rule is ABC, always be charging. So you plug it in and walk away. It takes 2 seconds. All right, section 6, climate considerations. This is an important one. This is something that we've never thought of, all of us that have driven gas vehicles most of our lives, is that climate affects the amount of range we get. This is true for gas vehicles. It's also true for electric vehicles. If the road surface is wet, there's more rolling resistance, you'll get less fuel economy in a gas car or an electric car. If it's winter time and it's cold out, you'll get less fuel economy from a gas car, and the same thing for an electric car. It's a little more visible in the electric car because you're using that battery to heat the cabin. You're using that battery to heat the seats, everything. Like the battery powers the entire vehicle. So you notice it more there. In the winter, I would say rule of thumb, worst case scenario, what you can expect is you're going to lose half your range. Now again, just like I talked about in section 5 in range, it's not so bad because you're always going to charge in between going someplace. You can still do the long road trips. In fact, the only thing that we do different, we did it today for this road trip, is we preheat the car while it's plugged in. That way we use wall power to heat up the battery, heat up the cabin, and then once we're underway, it takes a lot less energy to keep the cabin warm and the battery's at optimal temperature. It's an important consideration when you're shopping an electric vehicle because there are vehicles that have thermally managed batteries. That's a good thing. Our Leaf doesn't have that, and so our Leaf suffers a lot more than, say, the Tesla does, because what the Leaf does is it can only heat itself in the really, really cold, but it can't cool itself. So if it gets too hot, it can't cool itself. It's just relying on air cooling. Whereas a thermally managed battery will be able to do both. It'll be able to cool or heat and keep itself at a nominal operating temperature so that you get the most range out of it. Are there impacts in the different weather? Yes. Does it stop you from going to Disneyland? Our first trip with this car was in November. In the middle of winter, we drove it to Disneyland. We made it there, we made it back. So yeah, there's an impact, but there's chargers everywhere, and it wasn't an issue. And that brings us to section 7 on my top 10 list, which is charging. And that comes down to a couple of things. Where do I charge? Wherever there's an outlet that's available for you to use, ask permission, don't just plug in. But there's actual charging stations deployed throughout the country, and there's a number of apps that you can use for your local state, province, country, wherever you're at, that can help you locate these. It'll locate the L2 chargers as well as the L3 chargers. There is charging everywhere. Tesla has their own network. That was part of the reason we bought into the Tesla ecosystem, because not only do they sell us the car, but it comes with a charging infrastructure that will get us to all of the cool places we want to go to, like Disneyland. The other thing to remember with charging is, how long do you charge? When we do road trips, we don't charge it right to full. We just charge it to a little beyond where we need to get to the next charging site. And there's always multiple charging sites. So there's a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, and the nav helps you take care of that. How long do you charge? When we were doing the trip to Disneyland, some stops were as short as 10 minutes. We'd get everybody out of the car, we'd go have a bathroom break, we'd stock up on Slurpees and road food, we'd get back in the car, and we'd go to the next place. Some stops we'd stay for an hour and 15. Those we'd plan, we'd go in for lunch or for dinner. Car was ready to go before we had paid the bill. We'd come back out, car's fully charged, hit the road. So not that hard to use. Charge infrastructure. if you're shopping for an EV, you want to make sure that, it's a good thing to have charge infrastructure. Now, there's a lot of public infrastructure and there's also private. The Teslas are private. They only charge Teslas. Tesla has an invitation to other manufacturers if they want to hop on the network. They haven't had any takers yet, but you never know. That could happen. When we bought this car, that was a key consideration. I needed to do long road trips and I wanted a car that would be able to be supported on it. So that's why we chose this one. The other thing that people worry about with charging is, how much power do they use? Well, the size of your battery. That's how much power goes into it. And a little more because there's some efficiency losses. This car has an 85 kilowatt hour battery. And so if you take the 85 kilowatt hour, you multiply it by 0.067 cents per kilowatt hour, which is what we pay. It's less than $7 to fully charge this car from empty. That's at home. If we're charging on the supercharger network in various provinces and states, they post the charging. But again, like I said earlier, it's cheaper than gas. And you can charge anywhere you want. I mentioned before my rule with electric vehicles, ABC, always be charging. Even if you got battery range, like right now, we can make it to Banff, but we have an option here to charge. Take it. Charge the car, because you never know. You may want to do a long trip real quick. It's always nice to have juice in the tank or electrons in the battery to get you where you need to get to. All right, section 8, which is about performance. A lot of us like to have a car that performs well. I'm no different. Where it matters for me is safety. When I'm driving on the highway or the freeway and I want to pass a car, I want to do that as quickly as possible. We all do. That makes it a lot safer. The nice thing with electric cars is their performance is off the charts. When you punch that accelerator, you get instant torque and instant power. So you can go from doing, 70 kilometers an hour and you can be up to 120 in no time flat. What that means is passing people on the highway is instant. You're just around them and then you're good. That's a nice thing. I don't drive the car that hard. I mean, I like to get as much range out of the charge that I put in as I want, as I can. But it's nice to know that every once in a while, if you have to go a little faster, you've got the juice to do it, or to get out of a situation. You've got the juice to do it. That applies to the Nissan Leaf. It applies to all EVs. Their torquiness is it's addictive. It's like motorbike addictive. What are the benefits in section 9 of EV ownership? I mean, it's a car. At the end of the day, it's a car. The creature comforts, they've got all the same creature comforts as any other vehicle. The seats are comfortable. I got heated steering. I've got a heated seat. This car has heated rear seats. So does the Nissan Leaf. The Nissan Leaf has cloth seats that are made out of a recycled water bottle thing. I mean, they're comfortable cars. It's just like any other car. The aesthetics, different manufacturers, like the Nissan Leaf, some would say that's an ugly looking car. I would agree, even though I own it. But you know what? It grows on you. And when you're saving money driving these things, I could live with, and like it works. So you can get an amazing looking car. You can get a car that functions. And now they come in all different colors and styles. So as far as creature comforts and benefits, you've got the speed and the performance. It's just like any other car. It's just a different means of propulsion. Once you get over that headspace, at the end of the day, it's just a car. All right, section 10, I wanted to save this one for last. It's something that you would consider with anything that you buy. Any vehicle you buy is the warranty. With electrics, there's some additional things to check into. Like, for example, how long is the battery warranted for? How long is the drivetrain, the motor and drivetrain warranted for? This car has 2 motors. How long are they warranted for? So something good to look into. What you'll find is it's comparable with your ICE cars or internal combustion engine cars or gas cars. It's very similar. In fact, these are very, very good. Tesla had an 8-year battery warranty and drivetrain, and we had, I think it was up to 100,000 kilometers of range. We had a warranty on everything. We're well beyond that. Haven't had an issue. You know, is something going to break? Eventually. I mean, it's a car, so things like suspension will have to be looked at. Things like your rocker arms, your brakes. Same with any other vehicle. Just make sure you check the warranty and understand that it's covered and well covered. And most of them are. In fact, most of them are really, really good. In fact, at the end of the day, you're buying a vehicle from a car manufacturer outside of Tesla, which is one of the only new car companies that's actually succeeded to the level they have in the mass market. Every other manufacturer out there is making cars using the same types of warranties we've been getting from them with our gas vehicles. So it's familiar territory for most of us. Just check for the motor itself, the electric motor, and the battery. Those are the two things that you need to understand what warranty you're getting. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I hope that was worthwhile for you. I just want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. One is how to buy. You know, some of these cars, like the Tesla, you buy it online, kind of like buying an iPad or buying an electronic device. Went to a website, filled out what we want, pressed order, put some money down, and then they asked us for the big money when it was going to ship. The same is true of most car manufacturers. You can go to any Ford, GM, Chev, Audi, Porsche now, anyone who makes an EV, which is almost all of them are making EVs. And I said this about 5 years ago when we bought this car. I said in 5 years, I think every car manufacturer will be making at least one model of EV. Some will have 2 or 3 models. And that's true today. So you can go to their websites, you can configure the car any way you want, you can order it up. Go in, check them out, take them for a test drive, and find what works for you. Like I said, it's just like any other car. You got to find the one that's comfortable for you and works for your use case and your family. The other thing I want to say is if you have any questions for us, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. We do read them. On my YouTube channel, you can actually reach me. I put my email up there. So if you have questions, and I've gotten them from all over the globe, send them our way and we'll just, give you our thoughts and let you know what our experience has been to help you make the right decision for you. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate your time and enjoy our electric future. One thing I tell people, I say in the future, all of us will be driving electric vehicles. And I'm confident that I'm 100% correct because look at all of the elderly folks in your neighborhood, in my neighborhood. They're all on those little electric bikes, those 3-wheelers. They got their grocery cart thing in the front and they're zipping along sidewalks. They're loving life, driving electric. Biker out.